Welcome to Beyond the Beers. Men breaking the stereotype through conversation. We men love a good yarn, some banter, even better over a beer or 10. Sadly for many men, it never goes deeper than that. This show is a place for men to go beyond the surface level conversations, a chance to learn, listen, laugh and grow. I'm your host Mike Campbell, man coach and author of Amazon bestseller for men's health, Unleash Your Alpha. Let's break stereotypes through conversation. Let's go beyond the beers. Welcome to Beyond the Beers. I'm your host Mike Campbell, and today we are coming to you from the brewery at Young Henry's in Newtown. We're very happy to be here, and with me today we have Mr. Nick Bradley. Now, Nick is a former professional rugby league player, now personal trainer and coach and mentor for young boys who've kind of slipped through the system a little bit. And Nick and I have been friends for a long time now when we started working together at the same gym. I was instantly hit by his presence and I've continually been captivated by it. I think Nick is a man of strength, passion, virtue and integrity, and I always enjoy our chats, which is exactly why I wanted to have him here on the show. I think you'll enjoy it and value what he has to say too. So Nick, welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Mike.
So Nick, let's kick off. Now, one of the things I want to ask you to start with, it's something that's intrigued me for a long time. And I'm not sure if I've ever really asked you about this, and because we're going into the tougher conversations, I want to hit with it first. I've always been intrigued with your history in rugby league. You know, we see a lot of rugby league players in the press and the media for doing pretty stupid shit a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I, know the nature of footballing codes myself.
Yeah.
And I always wondered how such a highly intelligent, compassionate, conscious bloke like yourself handles that very blokey, macho kind of world.
Well, I guess, there's a couple of things. First of all, I'm from an archetypal rugby league background. My family is from the Riverina.
Yep.
In Australia, we grew up on farms and all that kind of stuff. And it's just been such a big part of our life and our family. My dad's from Fiji, which is a huge kind of football background. So I grew up with it and I get it. But I always did feel like I was sort of a little bit out.
Yeah.
But that's probably true in most of my life. So whether it's work or football, or even at uni, I was the footballer at uni. At football, I was the uni guy playing football. And it always felt like I was one foot. Even in Australia, I was half Fijian and half Australian, and I had a foot in both cultures. So amazingly, as you get older, it helps you navigate a whole heap of things.
Yeah, okay.
But the greater truth is this: there's 400 guys in the NRL, probably something like that. The vast majority of them are family guys. They get married at 23. They have 3 kids. Their family comes every weekend to watch them. They're working class kids, and they're made good, basically. And then you get 5 guys a year out of those 400 who are 21, who get on the drink, and they do terrible things. They embarrass themselves in the community and their family, and they've got to live with that. Yeah. And when they're 24, they're like, oh, the mist came off. Yeah. So I did feel like I was one foot in one world, one foot in the other. But I also think that, you get some guys who just aren't equipped to deal with the level of scrutiny that they've got.
Yeah, young kids, fame, bit of money.
And let's be honest, you go out there to hurt other people. Yeah. A big part of it is you're taught to be antisocial, be competitive, beat everyone else, do not show pain. When you show pain, we will boo you. Yeah. We will yell at you. 10,000 people do that. They laugh at you. They throw things at you when you come off the field if you're hurt. This is the reality. So you're taught, don't show pain, don't hurt, don't do any of these things. Oh, and then switch it off when you go over the white line. Even though you're 20, we've never taught you how to control your mind or your mindset whatsoever. So to a certain extent, we throw these young boys to the wolves. They're 21 and then they do this stupid stuff and you're like, why did you do it? Yeah. And the reason was they weren't prepared. So I did feel like I was outcast or outside a little bit. Yep. But I also am from that. I am a working class guy. That's how I grew up. Yep. So I get the culture. And I also believe we don't empower the people in the code to do it. And we also don't talk about all the amazing guys. Yeah. The guys that are community guys that they spend a lot of time out working with young people, working with kids, and loving their families. So and that's the core. It's
not making the press.
It's not interesting. Yeah. Rugby league is drama for grown men in Australia. It's soap opera. True. And what you read on the back page is usually the soap opera. They never talk about the game very much. No one cares.
So how did you find it then as a 19, 20-year-old getting into it and maybe seeing that with some of the players, I don't know, but yourself being confronted with a bit of notoriety, a bit of money, all that kind of stuff?
All those things do funny things to people, including yourself. And there's definitely a learning curve you go through. I came into the game, I guess, at a real inflection point where they just had the Super League war, and I made first grade pretty much the year after that. There wasn't much money in it, and it was just a very strange time to be an athlete. I was also at a club that was a shambles.
Right.
Senior players were getting caught with taking drugs. One of them knocked out another guy, a supporter at the leagues club. One of the senior players was threatening one of the conditioning staff. So I probably came in at the Tigers. It was like the worst club to make your debut because there were no role models. There was no identity, and I think men in groups, they can take on the characteristics of the other people, and it was hard. Yeah. It was hard to stay true to yourself or stay true to myself.
Were you aware of that at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that. Oh man, this is not. I didn't sign. I wanted more because I wanted to be part of a club, a community. I wanted to be in that team, and we were just all over the place. Yeah. And we're getting a lot of media scrutiny. There's a whole heap of like scandals just for the first 3-4 years of my career, and it really hurt me. Yeah. New coach comes in. And he's like, let's just clean these guys out, Tim Sheens. And it just happened to be that me and a few other guys, we'd made our debut in that era, and it was a bad way to start your football career. Yeah. But I was conscious, like, that's not probably my go.
So, okay, that's a big part of your life, somewhat gone, essentially.
Sure.
So I'm keen to know then now, not necessarily what you do, but what is it that kind of gets you off? What do you spend your time thinking about? What brings excitement to your life?
I really like business.
Yeah.
I like the challenge of I've got a couple of businesses that I run, and I enjoy that challenge a lot because it's always something different. I find that, the mindset required to be successful in business is a lot more consistent and constant than, let's say, being an athlete. An athlete is this acute stress all the time to perform, but business is like, will you be performing in 6 months' time? Yeah. Can you continue to wake up and do the stuff that you need to? So I love that. But, I really love working with young men. Boys who, they're boys, they're men, they're on that cusp.
Okay.
And helping them with that journey is something that's helped me on my journey into being a man, I guess, a fully functioning man. And there's an African saying that the boys that we don't induct into the tribe will burn down the village, and I think that's what we're seeing heaps of.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing my bit of the world. Hope we can grow that impact, but I really get a kick out of that now.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so on that, one of the things that we've talked about on the show previously is about, what it means to be a man these days and that kind of thing. But I'm more interested to ask more specifically around that cusp, right? So how do you address that cusp and the transition to manhood for those boys that are going through it?
Yeah. The truth is, a lot of men have missed this. Heaps of men have missed this. And what has to happen is a process where older guys, senior men, the leaders in the tribe, if it was the old days or whatever, just talk to young blokes about what it is to be a man. Yeah. And the truth is, young people do better when they've got a whole heap of guys to role model. So I'm not the only role model. I shouldn't be the only role model for the young people I'm working with, but I might be.
Yeah.
So the trick is really, how do we surround our young people with a variety of models on how to operate in the world? Because they can take a bit from each of them.
Yeah.
This idea that there's this superhero or this one role model that will teach you everything you need to know about life is bunk.
Yeah.
What they need to see is functioning men and women, but for the boys, men around them that they can model. And so that's what it's about. And then we put it into a series of rites of passage where we take them through realizations about their life and we place them in the middle of a story and they're the hero of that story.
Yeah, cool.
It's the same storyline as The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or any movie you've ever seen. They go on a journey.
Yep,
they're on a journey, and at the end, they're transformed by the rites of passage that we take them through.
And you find that they kind of, pick up that journey, that story, that archetype and run with it?
That monomyth, that archetype of storytelling is actually how we talk to ourselves about ourselves. Oh, God, I'm going through this part, I'm going through that part. Yeah. And then when we've successfully gone through our challenge and we're at the end and we see ourselves transformed, the next story, part of the story begins. And often that's how humans tell themselves. So, instinctively they get it.
Yeah, cool.
We've been doing it to the Iliad and the Odyssey. That's how we've told ourselves stories about ourselves.
That's how it comes about, right? And for those who might not be aware, Joseph Campbell's work around the monomyth, the hero of 1,000 faces, basically dives into everything through history, right? Storytelling, myths, legends, everything.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. Nice. Okay, so then that's the stuff that or some of the stuff that you really love to talk about.
Yeah.
So we've got to dig a bit deeper. What is the stuff that you don't like to talk about, or maybe that you struggle with? And is it with anyone in particular?
You know what? It's something that I'm working on, and actually something I admire about you. Something I really admire about you, but I've had a lot of trouble asking for help. You know, and the inability to ask for help is one of the things that put a cap on my ability to be successful in a whole range of things. And a few years ago, I was doing a bit of, I was sitting back and going, why haven't I got all the things I want? Why didn't my football career, why wasn't I exactly as good as I felt like I could have been? Because I wasn't, I didn't think. And why isn't business doing as well as I want? And why are these mistakes with my relationships? And I'd actually paid this guy like $25,000 or $30,000 to coach me in business and some stuff. And I got to the end of it and I was like, I didn't get what I wanted. And it was 6 months later and I thought, why didn't I get it? And I thought, well, I didn't really do what he told me.
Right.
So I went back and I said, maybe I need some coaching.
Yeah.
And I paid him again. And I went and did some work on myself. And the first realization was realizing I wasn't getting what I wanted. The second was going, well, am I coachable? Am I listening to what someone tells me? And then the third was, the truth is I grew up with a single mom and my dad was, you know, he's a great guy, but made some classic parenting errors. Yeah. And particularly in raising, and so as a single, you know, with a single mum, you want to protect them, you don't want them to worry about you. Yeah. And so you learn to be self-sufficient. And you learn not to express when you're upset. And you know, amazing, because it got me to uni in a complicated degree and it got me to be an athlete and it got me around the world and I'd seen everything, but then it became my cap. Yeah. And the cap was I needed to reach out and ask for help. And it manifests in weird ways. So someone will say to me, hey, I'm taking my boat out this weekend, you're coming. And I'll be like, no one can tell me what to do. And I'll say no. And then all my friends on this boat having a good time, I'm like, what the hell am I not doing on the boat? But part of not asking for help is also not being given things. Yep. And not being open to people being generous, because it just springs from the same spot.
And so do you find that that's a case of struggling to actually receive things? Because that's getting help.
A bit of both, yeah. I have trouble receiving things and I have trouble asking when I need it. And then that means, well, I can't ask my staff to do what I need them to do at work. And they're not fulfilled as people. Yeah. And so to step into leadership means accepting that you have to let go, accepting that you need help from everybody around you. Yeah. And that's one of the things I really loved about you. When you need help, when you need something for your show or whatever it is, you go and you ask people. And actually asking for help is strength. Being prepared to say, I need this, can you help me, is strength. Yeah. And that's a strength that I'm coming to slowly.
But also, and I think a lot of us can resonate, it doesn't necessarily feel like it.
No, it does not at all.
Right?
Yeah.
Personally, I see it as a struggle, and it's not something I'm amazing or mastered, but I just kind of remind myself that as long as I realise that I have an inner faith in myself, that everything will be okay. You know,
yeah.
Wheels not going to fall over if I be a bit vulnerable and ask for help or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? And sometimes I think you just got to ask that actual question, lay it out, pros, cons, okay, and you can kind of be quite analytical because we're quite good at that.
Yeah. Sitting back thinking about it, but I guess the deeper realization is when you don't ask for help, you also can't empower the people that you know. I would love to help you as much as I can, and I will up to the bit where I can't help you anymore. And I think most of us would like to do that. And one of the reasons I feel like Australian men get stuck is that we aren't interacting in a way where it's like, what can I do for you? You know, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? And it's not transactional. It's like it's how I think men connect with each other is doing things for one another. But if you never ask, you just don't get that.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of extending on from that a little bit, can you share an example of when you have had a tougher conversation, one that you were perhaps in your head about beforehand, and then what kind of happened as a result?
Tougher conversations. This made me send my mind way back actually to something that was really traumatic for me, which was my sister was diabetic, and never confronted her illness. She just and never dealt with that. And I was a bull. I was playing football, and I was like, just eat vegetables. Like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just do what you're supposed to?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the tools that I've got now. Yeah. To talk to people about stuff. And then tragically, she passed away because she'd never come to grips with that. And actually that set off in me, like when you asked me this question, it set off in me this thing of like, how do I communicate with people better? And I think, that propelled me into becoming a coach. Yeah. It's the thing that's driven me. And so it's been a 10-year process or a 12-year process of learning how to have that conversation, the difficult conversation with people. And right now, someone I love is depressed. And strangely, because of what happened 10 years ago, I'm much better equipped at having that difficult chat. And it's weird. Like, what you think is this thing that's impossible to talk about is just like, hey mate, you're depressed. What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, I'm circling the drain at the moment. That's how I feel. It's bad. And it's just that chat, which I didn't know how to have a long time ago.
And so you've had that chat with this person?
Yeah.
And how did you find it?
Well,
from your perspective?
From my perspective, you have to get past your own ego.
Yeah.
Oh, I let you down. Why didn't I see this before? Why? And then all I could hear was me, I. It's not about me.
And how am I going to feel?
How am I going to feel? What if you die and it's because I didn't say the right 3 words and I'm not God that can fix everything?
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's just the chat was the important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, the person that I'm talking to is having the realizations on their own because they had someone to talk to. And it was really just this.
Yeah. And
I am not God. I didn't make it all happen. I just said something and sat there and listened.
So we've spoken a little bit about, you know, your earlier life as a professional sportsman, where you're at now, and to some degree, you know, what's been your journey. But I'm interested to know more specifically around the step maybe from professional sportsman to no longer a professional sportsman. I'm sure there's countless examples and stories around it, and I've heard some pretty troubling and hard ones, but I'm keen to see your personal experience and then what you've seen perhaps with some of your mates and former teammates.
So it was the worst and the best as well.
Yeah.
It's the best of times and the worst of times. I think it's a good way to start a story. But you know, what happened for me was I was playing football. I played in the World Cup for Fiji. We had this amazing experience. We got to the semi-final against Australia and got just annihilated. But it was a group of boys from a village. Yeah. We genuinely had kids out of the village in Fiji play against Australia at the football stadium. And it was an amazing journey. And then I was kind of like, you know what, I'm 28, I need to do something different. I had a girlfriend that I loved, I was just in love with her. She lived in England. We've been doing long distance for 2 years because I've been playing in England previously. So I quit football so I can get a proper job, you know, like go work in finance, had an economics degree or something like that. And then we broke up. And so my football career was over, and because I thought I was going to be this responsible dude or whatever.
Yeah.
And my career broke. My parents, while I'd been away, had gone into a business, and I'd lent them all the money I'd made playing football. They lost it all. They lost all their money, their houses. We had no material possessions. There was genuinely a week where my mum and I, we just had no money in none of our bank accounts, and we just had some noodles in the fridge, in the cupboard, and we laughed because we're like, we're back here again. This is where we were when I was a kid, you know? Despite all the stuff, we're here, but we weren't because we didn't had all these other things happen to us emotionally and personally, you know? But materially, we were zero. So, strangely, the process of clearing everything out was done for me. My relationship was done, my career was done, I had no money, we had no home, we had nothing. It was all gone. And so I could actually start completely fresh and create a new identity. And so I think a lot of people struggle in that process because they linger on and hold on to the life that's 100% gone.
So identifying over here still as I'm this.
I'm an ex-footballer.
Yep.
No, once you're a footballer, now someone else has to create a story. Yep. So that process of death, it was truly death. Yep. And you know, you miss it like a phantom limb. You dream in football. You spent your whole life getting good at it, and now it still hurts. I still wish I could play. I watch it and I just want to run into someone, you know? It's just, I miss it. I miss the contact.
I always played to avoid people.
Yeah, I loved running into them, you know? That's part of it. It must be league. And so I could create this new story.
Yep.
I had a fashion label, I had a lot of things going on, but my friend said to me, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you just come and do some personal training? I'm like, yeah, personal training, that's a part-time job I can do till I get my finance job.
Yep.
And then I realized people were drawn to me for whatever reason, and I liked helping them. End up training all these CEOs of banks, and that's how I got to the next part.
So, ensuring that you're not identifying with one part of your life and one part of your story, but actually kind of living your story and looking with you know, what brings you value. Cool.
Yeah.
So then, one of the things that I find myself, I'm very analytical, I'm very up in my head, and I've heard this from a lot of guys in general, and I know as guys we tend to do it because we don't share, and it's kind of what you're talking about before. Yeah. But we can often have a very common conversation. So I'm interested in our heads. I'm interested to ask you: is there kind of a common story or conversation that plays out in your head?
Yeah, there's a low-level anxiety that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. That just is always gnawing away at me.
So you should be having the finance job, you mean?
Not so much the job thing, but like I should be right now at home doing some work on the computer.
Yep. I can resonate with that.
Yeah, and then the realization is, as I become more senior, as I as I go through this path I'm on in life, it's actually more important for me sometimes to make a decision and to empower someone else to do some stuff, and then to rest, rather than this low level of just drudgery of work, of I'm tapping away on the computer. So
doing something for the sake of it because you feel like you should.
I feel like I should.
Yeah.
And so developing some wisdom around that is hard. It's a new position for me in life because I've been hustling for the last forever. I hustled to
and
be
it's
on
you,
teams.
and you've got to do it. It's all on me.
It's all on me, but it's not. I got to empower other people. Ask for help. So all these things kind of sit together. But that internal, and then sometimes knowing when to say, "Hey, you've just been lazy. Do some work."
Yeah.
And the wisdom of
that's the
those
tricky
two.
little fluid kind of thing to figure out, right? But I suppose, my take on that is it only comes with awareness, right? The more you pay attention to yourself, the more you can figure that stuff out and better know.
And I also think metrics. So if you're uncertain about something and you've got anxiety, am I doing the right or wrong thing? Start to measure what you're doing.
Yeah.
If the metrics are good and they're improving or they're going the way you want them to, great. If they're not, your anxiety may well be correct. And the thing that really kills anxiety is action. I'm anxious about this thing. Well, let's measure it. And if we have to change it, change it. If not, let the anxiety go.
Yeah. And considered action too, right? Because I think a lot of us, and I'm very guilty of this myself at times, it's action for the sake of action, and it's not necessarily taking us anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's
Which
right.
leads to more of that anxiety.
That anxiety about am I wasting my time? Like if I find myself at 8 o'clock at night on the computer, I'm like, why? Rest.
Yeah.
Talk to your girlfriend. Read a book. They're important things also.
So earlier we spoke about manhood to some degree in terms of that cusp and the journey from boyhood to manhood, more specifically with the guys that you're working with. So as you said, part of that has been helping your own journey, right, as a man.
Yep.
So I'm interested to know, has there been particular role models and perhaps mentors in your life that have helped pave that journey for you, or at least provide an example of what it is to be a kind of a well-balanced man?
Sure, and there's examples and anti-examples too.
Yep.
And I think people maybe sometimes underappreciate seeing a bad example can be a very powerful thing for you.
Yeah.
It can galvanise action in yourself.
Yeah, true.
But probably the best example, my mum got married when I was 12 to a guy, funny-looking guy. He's bald and he's got a bit of a hump on his back. But he married my mum when she had a 13-year-old or 12-year-old boy. My dad was a bit crazy, and so there was some heat on him there. His family, he's Palestinian from Israel. His family were not on side with him marrying a woman that had a child. It was just not a thing. And so they basically said to him, you can either have your family or you can have your wife and her illegitimate child, but you can't have both. And he picked my mum. And then he was just the best. If there's that stereotype of a bad step parent, he's the opposite. Never told me what to do, but he always cared for me. He was always there. He'd pick me up. He picked me up to take me from the school dances. He came to all my football games. He loved my mum. He's just the best guy. And the thing is, he's not muscly. He's not good at sports. He's got a great personality, but he's not the guy that's going to command the room.
Yeah.
He's not physically tough. Mm-hmm. But he got up in that roof every day and installed air conditioning for my mum and I to have a good life. Yeah. And there was just something in that for me, just seeing what a really good guy is. He goes to work every day. He loves his wife. He supports his family, and he does the best job that he can with the skill set he's got.
So he's not necessarily an obvious leader,
Not the obvious one.
But he's leading in different ways.
Yeah. So that was definitely one. I feel super fortunate that when I started my job as a coach, a PT, I got to work with some really high-functioning dudes, really successful in business, entrepreneurial guys. And I got wisdom from all of them, and it's such a fortunate thing to be paid to spend time with really clever men. So there's a variety of guys in business that I spent time with.
Getting little bits here and there.
Little bits here and there, and there isn't one that I go, he was the one. Where I learned everything.
Yeah, but you've been aware to the examples that have been out there for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then, strangely, my dad, who is both an anti-example but also an example, my dad is just a very charismatic guy, and the importance, he made everyone feel good.
Yeah.
You know, everyone that met him was like, oh, that guy was a good guy. And there's a skill in that and a talent in that I learned a lot from. Cool. And you can use it on the dark side or the light side of the force, just depending on how you choose. But it was an amazing thing to learn from. And then I guess the final one was all the men in my family and my mum's family. So my grandfather was that guy who would be in the fields farming for 12 hours and then go and run the sports carnival, which would be 60 kilometres away from his farm. And no one ever noticed that he was even tired at the sports carnival and never made a big deal out of it. And yet you ask his 8 children, oh yeah, actually Dad was at my netball sports carnival. He was at everything. But yeah, he was harvesting 14 hours a day. And he recently passed away and we reflected on that. And everyone was like, oh, we maybe just realised the extent of what he was doing.
Right.
So my grandfather, and he told me one really important thing, which was this: no man's better than you, and you're not better than anyone else. And that's really like a way that me and my uncles have all lived our lives.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not scared. I don't feel like anyone can put it over me in any way, but I'm also not better than any other people I've come across.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, okay, cool. Conversation. We have delved into a little of the stuff that you perhaps struggle with, asking for help and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put you on the spot here because we've got cameras on you and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there something that you just don't talk about? You just plain and simple don't talk about that you're willing to share?
You know what? I don't know why this came to my head, and I suppose it's embarrassing or whatever, but pornography.
Yeah. So
recently, a few months ago, I just had this epiphany, and it's like, pornography is not good for you. It's bad for you. And it's not something that anyone talks about, but I thought about it in more detail, and it's like the sexual drive that we have as men and women as well.
Yep.
It's actually the drive of creation. It's the same thing when the universe started. As mystical as that sounds, it's what it is. But it drives us to succeed. It drives us to climb mountains. Like, why did monkeys build the Eiffel Tower? That drive, it's there. And, pornography just deadens it. It's a chance for you not to connect with the sexual, the spiritual energy
just
that you have.
Releasing the valve over there.
Release the valve, and also it destroys the relationship that you can have with women and the joy you can get from your sexual life. Yeah. And all those images are still in your brain. All the ones you've ever seen are there in there. And so it was this weird thing. It's not like, and I definitely don't want to peg myself as like some pornography freak, but like most modern people, spend some time on the internet looking at naked pictures and videos. But it was just this thing that came to me, and I was kind of like, that's not. And I actually haven't told anyone. It was just something I was like, that's it. No more pornography ever. That's it. I'm done. Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't like anything bad happened. It just was I was actually meditating. I was like, I don't want that stuff in my head. I want other things, and I don't want to block between all these amazing experiences. And more than anything, I don't want to steal my own drive from me. Yeah, yeah. If I feel the urge to have sex, I want to connect with that. Is it just that, or is it the urge to create? Is it the urge to build and grow? Yeah.
And there's also an opportunity there for some connection. Right?
Yeah.
With a human.
With a human, Yeah. And then why would I kill that? That's driving me to connect. Yeah. Why would I kill that a little bit? Yeah, yeah. Why do I anesthetize myself? I want that power.
Yeah. And I can resonate with that, absolutely, but also, see that happening. So many of us men are disconnected, right? Yeah. And that gives us such an easy avenue to stay that way.
It's so easy just to stay dead. Yeah.
And so is that something that comes up with the boys that you're working with?
No. The thing is, it's so funny talking to boys about menhood, they get it. You ask a 15-year-old boy, what's a good man? And they inevitably give you answers that men don't give you.
Yeah, right, okay.
They inevitably tell you. One of these guys I had last year, awesome guy, a lot of stuff going on. Spits and swears and acts all tough and wears his hat to the side. And people had sort of like assumed that he was a bit of a ruffian. And we had a very honest conversation, me with 5 or 6 of these young men, and like, what's a good man? And one of the boys, who's actually quite well off actually, and he was like, when you can pay your bills, man, and you can pay for your phone, and you can live in a house, and you got a car, that's when you're a man. And the other one, who didn't engage a lot, he was like, that's not what a man is. A man is someone that can like love a woman and their children. And make sure that they're always safe and they don't feel like they're in danger. And they'll never know when it's hard for him because he'll just protect them like that. I was kind of like, that's a pretty beautiful vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's specific and it's, but it's a beautiful vision. It's a one vision of masculinity. I think that's very amazing and strong.
Yeah. And it's something that kid can work with.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, I want to throw one last little one at you, and that is there a conversation that you want to have? Is there something that you want to talk about right now?
There's a conversation brewing in me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a but I'm not certain what it is. And it's about what's my next purpose. Mm-hmm. Over the past year or 2 years, I felt really strongly that my purpose was working with young people. And my purpose was, my girlfriend's really successful, and helping her to make sure that was solid and that she could have, because she's like an athlete as well, and she could have the kind of career that I think she wants.
Yep.
And so I found myself at this point in life feeling like it's a time of service, help young people, build a legacy in the community at the club that I work at, help my girlfriend. But I also feel like there's a conversation I need to have with myself over the next couple of months about, well, what's my story next?
Yeah.
Because service will sustain me for the rest of my life, but there's also, how do I serve my goals?
How do you serve you?
Yeah. And so that I think is coming for me. Maybe we can talk about it in the future. You can help me out a little bit, because I'm a bit lost with that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what my path is, and I feel like it's coming.
So thanks for sharing that. And I think that's such an important and poignant little point, is that I think a lot of us can be maybe stuck in that place where, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
Certainly you've got purpose, right?
Yeah.
Meaning you're doing things that bring you purpose. And for me, that's something for me is maybe a distinction that is needed, like personally. What is my purpose can be quite overwhelming and confronting.
Yeah.
But as long as you've got purpose, like that's good momentum, and you can kind of go from that. I think that can lead the way.
Yeah, and there's this big fallacy that you have to be doing the one thing in life that satisfies all of your needs. So we put that expectation on relationships, that one person can satisfy everything.
Yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually, physically. Work, this one job will give me all the satisfaction and money and everything that I need in that one thing. And I actually believe, hey, I might just be really good at some stuff that makes money, which I quite like. And I might love working with people in the community, but there might be this other purpose of mine that I need to develop and grow that may never make me enough money to support me, but it might be this thing that I just think.
Yeah, but it makes you.
Makes me.
You.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where I'm at in the conversation, is the bit where I just don't know the answer. Yeah.
But the key there being, it's having that conversation with yourself.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. And slowly I'm having it with others, because I've realised, I feel that a little bit.
Yeah. So you're recognising it.
I'm at the recognition stage. Yeah.
The awareness.
Yeah.
But that's it, right? Because a lot of us swallow that shit down. And you spoke about pornography, perhaps, but then there's other things like numbing. If we're just going, fuck, hard day, let me straight for the beer or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But the more we can pay attention to
and work
and what we're feeling and experiencing, we can actually listen to that. Oh, there's a voice in me that's saying whatever it is, right?
The conversation I had with my friend who's depressed the other day, I was like, man, you literally work 16 hours a day, punches some booze for 3 hours. And I don't think alcohol's evil either. But it was, and he said to me, what my realization is? It was just easier to work that amount of time, have 6 or 7 drinks or whatever, go to bed, get up at 5 o'clock and work again.
And do it again.
Then sit there with my thoughts.
Yeah. And that's where, we numb.
We numb, whatever the method.
With a lot of work and a lot of beer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, listening to that voice and whatever it is, and actually just being aware to what's going on in you. And I got that a lot from this conversation. Mate, that's us.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming along.
Thanks, Mike.
It's been great to chat. I've learned some stuff there that I didn't know about you, which was very cool.
Oh, thanks for my intro too. Maybe I was blushing a little.
I didn't see it. So, mate, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you.
It has been great to chat, and I've definitely learnt some stuff about you there that I didn't know. So I'm personally quite happy that we've connected a bit more here, and I hope that everyone else has got something from that. So thank you everyone for tuning in. The one thing I want to leave you with is make sure that you go out into your own lives now and take some of this, and whatever resonates with you, apply action to it. Start having these more meaningful conversations in your own life. Ask a mate if he wants to have a real chat, and just go beyond the beers. Click on the link below and go to beyondthebeers.tv. There you can sign in to watch the rest of the episodes for free, as well as all the episodes of the show. Otherwise, make sure you share this episode with at least one man you think will enjoy or benefit from it. Now go out into your own life and start having these more meaningful conversations. Ask for help. Ask a mate how he's really doing. Or if he just wants to have a real conversation and go beyond the beers.